Welcome back to the Savage NASCAR Podcast, episode number 10, and today I have a very special guest with us, Matt Moreau. Thanks for joining us today. How's it going, man?
Hey Christian, just got a busy day at classes. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking, man. And we got a lot of topics to get into today, but first I wanted to ask you, where did you find your love for racing?
That's a really good one actually. All I know is from when I was little, I turned on the TV once, saw NASCAR, I was hooked. I was in kindergarten. None of my family has racing experience. So yeah, I just love it.
And for those that don't know, Matt actually is a race car driver. He does super stocks. He was the 2017 GVKC, if I'm correct, champion. He also did some karting, and he's an iRacer. So could you tell us about how you got started in racing and how Shadow Racing was formed?
So how did I start racing? Yes, that's very simple. When I was in kindergarten, I pestered my dad to get a go-kart. I think there was a period where I stopped pestering him. And then when I was in, I don't know what grade, but I was 13. Then I got my first kart then, when my dad got a better job. So it went off from there, and it's an addiction. Shadow Racing is actually the name of my dog. Well, my dog's name is Shadow. I designed the logo in a very old hockey game. And since then, I've tweaked it a little bit with the word format. And I've used it to make an iRacing team. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome stuff. Now, kind of a change of topic, but it's been a while since we talked. We've both been very busy. How has your experience in college majoring in automotive technology and business been?
Yeah, my major being Auto Tech BT, Bachelor's in Technology, and Auto Body. Yeah, it's been, some classes are more difficult than others, but I've learned a ton. I went to school not knowing much about how cars physically worked. I just had my racing experience and working on my kart. But now I know a lot more, and being able to fix the current race car I have is nice too.
You also compete in iRacing, as you mentioned earlier, and professionally, if I'm correct. But I have to bring up karting again. So tell us about how you got started in karting and what you've done on the track.
Well, I race at a club level. The karts, I did like 2 money races, and I won a good amount of cash in that. But I am going to be competing on a regular basis for some cash for the 6-cylinder. So if that's what your definition of professional is. But I do race at a local grassroots track with a starting car for now. And haven't been able to compete yet because 2020 was my rookie year and COVID was a thing. So I just was able to get some practice laps in. So I know what I'm doing for when I can compete this year.
Now, I gotta bring up sponsor situations. So what's that been like? I mean, you've been finding some, but I know sponsors are always hard to find, especially for different leagues and series and all that. So could you tell us about what your sponsor situation's like?
Sponsors, oh boy, this topic is rough. Sponsors, it's a love-hate relationship. They're really hard to get, and it takes a lot of work. But I have been able to gain 2 sponsors for my real race car, that being Crosby's. They're a local convenience store and a gas station chain, local to New York. And the other one being TZ Graphics, a local graphics company. So if you want to hit those guys up, graphics, TZ Graphics, they can get you some stuff on iRacing. Agent NASCAR, he's my sponsor, and he gives me some designs for that at a good price. They're actually free, and we help him a lot. And he's a very talented guy, so hit up Agent NASCAR while you're at it for some iRacing graphics for your car or some t-shirt designs.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's actually done a couple graphics or paint scheme designs for me as well. And it's funny, both me and him have the same first name. Now I'm going to change the topic a little bit. Your favorite drivers are Tony Stewart and Michael McDowell. Could you tell us why those two?
Stewart, like I said, I started watching NASCAR when I turned the TV on one time and NASCAR was on there. And I liked orange at the time, so that's why I like Tony Stewart. He had that completely orange Home Depot. Was it a Pontiac or a
He drove
Chevy?
both.
I think it was Chevy at the time. And then Michael McDowell, I became a fan of him after one of his sponsors, Caleb, and I'm a Christian. He's a
Same.
Christian. So yeah, that's how I started like him too. And this year has been great, winning the Daytona 500. And I'm not a bandwagon fan, something Tony Stewart couldn't get done. So that was really cool to see.
Fact, Joe. And as I've mentioned on other episodes here on the Savage NASCAR podcast, I didn't really dislike Tony Stewart, nor was he one of my favorite drivers. And Michael McDowell, he's a Christian. Definitely support him. And I won't say McDowell's one of my top like 4 or 5 favorite drivers. So he's definitely in the top 10. And he's doing really well this season. He's had a lot of great runs up there in the top 15. So really happy for them. I mean, they've come so far. They've definitely had their struggles over the years, and I've really wanted to see them in victory lane. So it's really cool to see them win the Daytona 500 this year, and hopefully they can win some more races. Your favorite tracks are Watkins Glen and Bristol, which are 2 of my personal favorites. How do you feel like the racing has been there in recent years? Because I know not everyone has liked them as of late.
So the racing at Bristol, PJ1 compound is something, but I think it's the current aero package. Some of the Bristol racing has been interesting. Some of it not so much in the Cup series, but in the lower tier series, Bristol's just like what it used to be. But Watkins Glen, I liked watching it. Road courses can be a little boring, I guess, to watch because there's not as much passing, not as much rubbing racing, for the exception of Bubba and Kyle Busch kind of taking each other out on the front stretch. But I like Watkins Glen, especially when it was rain racing for the Xfinity series. That was fun to watch.
Nice. Now, before we get into the topic of Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend with the races in the trucks and Xfinity and Cup Series, do you have any interesting racing stories or crazy things that's happened to you on the track that you could tell us?
All right, there's 3 that come to mind. Might not share all of them. I'll try to share the more entertaining ones. But the first one was trying to avoid a wreck, and I ended up getting myself into one. Didn't collect anyone else, thankfully. But I was trying to avoid someone and turned, and I ended up getting into this pocket, and then the wall was right there. So that was not a good situation. Everything on the right side was bent up, including the frame. The only thing on the left side that was bent was the brake pedal. So I guess I did try to avoid that. I did have a close battle with a friend for a championship. I guess that friendship turned a little sour, mainly on his part because I was being his biggest rival at the time. And yeah, we ended up getting the championship. And I guess there maybe was some retaliation from him afterwards. 6-cylinder. There was this girl behind me. She didn't know that we were leaving the track. And I knew we were leaving the track because I saw the flag. She didn't. And yeah, I maintained my lane. She came zooming right by me.
Oh, man.
And that was actually a really close call to almost T-boning me when I was exiting. And
Wowzers.
This car is brand new to me.
Natalie Decker moment.
Not so much.
Oh, Natalie, don't block me. Don't block me. Hopefully, don't cancel me. One other topic I want to mention is that you're also involved in diecast racing, but not as much as you were before because you're in college. What made you want to be a part of diecast series?
I joined a few of those when my account was new to try and meet some people in the NASCAR community because I started up the Shadow Racing 38 account to try and promote my own racing. And somehow I ended up getting into a diecast league. But now that I'm older, I'm kind of getting out of that. Probably staying in a select few with some friends that I have, but they're just people hanging out, and it's not intensive. It's pretty much up to whoever hosts that, and some of them are more fun than others.
Definitely. Now, for those that don't know, Matt is actually in my series, the Super Cup series, and he's been a part of it since the beginning, since season one. And it feels just like yesterday whenever I started up. I mean, time has flown. He won the season three championship, and I just want to say thank you, Matt, for sticking with me with my series. You've seen the good and the bad, and you've been here and you've been loyal. So I just want to say thanks. But enough of that. We have to talk about this upcoming weekend's races at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So, how do you feel about the racing overall there? Because for me, I think the past few years' races at the track have been pretty boring, and I think it should be off the schedule. So, what's your opinion on it?
Some of the racing in Atlanta has been good, some of it not. I do like the track surface though, being nice and rough, and the drivers can slide around. But the biggest thing I remember from that is Harvick doing his Harvicking line. So he's definitely going to be in my fantasy lineup. I guess I'd like it to stay on the schedule. Maybe replace it once the track needs to be replaced.
I honestly like the old Atlanta better from that they used to race back in the 70s through the 90s, but that's just my opinion. So, now with the truck series, I think Matt Crafton's going to win. He's done really good at the track in the past, and I know Kyle Busch is the big favorite. I thought about picking him, but I'm just going to go Crafton. I mean, he's due a win. He hasn't won in a while. I think that they could get the dub.
I don't really follow the Truck and Xfinity series too much, although I do know the drivers there. So for Truck series, I would pick probably one of the KBM guys. Seeing John Hunter Nemechek going for a second win. That would be my pick.
And now, who do you have for the Xfinity race?
Cindric's going to be dominant dominant all season. I think he's going to be dominant this race too.
Oh man, two in a row for Austin, I see. Well, for me, I'm going to pick Harrison Burton. As I mentioned with Crafton, he's due a win, and Burton's ran pretty well so far this season, but Cindric wrecked him at Las Vegas, so I think he'll redeem himself. And for Sunday's Cup race, I have to go with Kevin Harvick. He's really good at intermediate tracks, and he's looking to get back into victory lane. I think he could definitely do it. And he's had a history of winning at Atlanta. I don't think the race is going to be too exciting like last year's. It was pretty boring. I want to see an exciting Atlanta race. That's my main point. But who's your pick to win on Sunday?
For Cup, I haven't done my fantasy picks yet, and usually I try to look at statistics from last season's. But I guess going off the top of my head, and the way things are going so far, I would probably think one of the Hendrick guys, but my fantasy might change after that for what I'm gonna do later on.
Interesting. I'm a Team Hendrick fan all the way, but I don't know about that pick. But we'll see this coming Sunday. Now, as we're wrapping up the show today, I was wondering if you had any closing remarks or any thoughts you wanted to say. Again, thank you for joining us, and his links to his social media will be in the description below.
No, I don't have anything else to say. Thanks for letting me do this. It's been fun, and I hope this information would help someone or at least be mildly entertaining. I guess I wasn't very too humorous in this, just trying to answer questions just like someone looking at a test.
A test?
So, it was been fun, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I had a blast, and yeah, I like to ask a lot of hard questions. So yeah, you did a great job answering them. And for those watching, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And comment down below if you have any thoughts or anything you want to ask us. I really enjoyed this episode. A lot of laughs, a lot of interesting stories. So we've reached the checker flag. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace!